Hey, welcome to Thread. Thanks so much for joining us for today's sermon. We hope that it ministers to you, that it uplifts you, and ultimately we hope that you encounter God today.
Tithing is not generosity, okay? Now, I know some of you guys are like already mad. You're like, tithing is not generosity. What? I thought I was being generous when I tithe. No, you're not being generous. You're being obedient. Leah, my phone's over there. Can you hand me up? I do this every year, and I just love doing this. It's my favorite example I have. So I have an iPhone. It's not a nice iPhone. It's just an iPhone, and it's broken. I've got a big crack on the screen, but it's mine. It's my phone. Now, if I said, Reith, hey, I'm going to let you borrow my phone. I'm going to give it to you, but I need you to give it back. Okay? I need you to give it back to me. When I ask you to give it back, I need you to give it back. Is that cool? Okay, cool. Now, number one, am I being generous to Reith by giving her my iPhone? Sure. Yeah. Cool. So we would say that when God, I don't think any Christian has any problem believing that my provider is the Lord. Would anybody say, God is my provider? Anybody believe that? Jehovah Jireh, my provider. Okay, old song. But anyways, we have no problem saying that God is my provider. The problem is when God puts stipulations on what he provided you with, you have a problem with it. And so when he says, actually, I'm going to give you 10% for you to hold, I'm going to give it to you, and I need that 10% back so that the 90% can be blessed. Now, I gave Reith my iPhone. Now, if Reith doesn't give me back my iPhone, is she being nice to me? No. Would you say she's stealing from me? Yes. Okay, now Reith, can you give me my phone back? And actually, okay, look, thank you. Now, was Reith being generous just now? No, why? Because it's mine, okay? And so if the tithe is the Lord's, you're not generous because you gave him back what's his. Following me? You tracking? And so today we're going to go another layer deeper. Last week we talked about tithing. This week we're going to talk about generosity. We're talking about money for the next two more Sundays after this. So if you don't want to come to Thread and hear about money, skip the next 2 weeks and then come back strong in March. But this week we're going to continue to talk about generosity. And so if you're a tither, I would also say you're not generous because if you tithe, you just tithe. I don't. When I'm writing, like my tithe comes out automatically from my paycheck because our giving platform allows you just to set it up on recurring. So I get paid on the same time of the month. I get paid on the 1st and the 15th. So on the 1st and the 15th, my check or my tithe check comes out, and it's just the first thing that comes out every single month. Now, I don't even think about that as tithing because when you step into tithing, you don't even consider that like generosity. You just consider it like part of your routine. Like, because I think some of you guys, you're like, well, I'm being generous so that I can because I'm just really saying that I'm really partnering and being generous with Thread. And you are, but as a tither, if I left Thread, which would be a weird thing, but if I left Thread, my tithe would still come out every single time I got paid. It just might not go to the same spot. And so if you're church shopping, or whatever you might call it, this morning, if you're a tither, then you tithe no matter if you found a home church yet, you still find a way to tithe. Why? Because tithing is just a part of your routine. It's part of what you do. So this morning, if you're saying, well, I'm being super generous when I tithe, I would say you probably are either new to tithing or you don't tithe. Because when you tithe, it's just like this normal part of my life. A tither will tithe because they want their finances to be aligned with God's heart. But generosity doesn't begin until you go above and beyond the tithe. So I want to tell you this morning, you can't have we talked about last week, you can't have generational favor if your money is cursed. And the Bible says that unless you tithe, your money is under a curse. The best way, though, you step into generational favor is to have your money blessed. So this year, like I said, we're going another layer deeper and talking about generosity. But I would say this, most Christians would love to be generous. Does anybody love giving stuff away? Does anybody love just giving gifts? Anybody like me? Like when Christmas comes around, when me and Brenna got married, we're wild, okay? So we just kind of make our own rules. And I don't know why we did this, but the first year we got married, we bought our gifts really early because we were just like young and in love. And, if anybody remember like the honeymoon phase when you were just like I am just so in love with you. And it's the greatest thing in my life to give you gifts and give you whatever you want, and I still think that way sometimes, but it slowed a little bit, and so we're still we're fanning that fan back into flame, Brenna, we're yeah, okay. But anyways, But anyways, I remember this first year we got married. It was Christmas time. We bought our gifts really early, and those gifts were just sitting under the Christmas tree. And I was just thinking to myself, there ain't no reason to not open those presents now because it's our house. It's my house. I can say it's Christmas today, you know? And so I kid you not, we opened those gifts up a good week and a half early. Like it was like December 15th, and we're doing Christmas at the Burkins house. And I love giving gifts. And I would say that most Christians love giving gifts. The Bible says that it's better to give than to receive. And so I don't think that 99% of Christians are sitting here today thinking to themselves, man, I'm just really looking for more ways to be stingy. I'm just really looking for more ways to not be generous. I believe that as you find your life in alignment with God's, that it's just the natural stage of progression to become more and more generous. Why? Because the Bible says, for God so loved the world that he gave. So you look the most like Jesus when you are generous. And so generosity is just a normal part of following Jesus. And I would say that you can't step into generational favor, though, if you spend everything that you make. And you can't be generous if you eat all your money. Like we said last week that Malachi chapter 3, the Bible says that test me in this and see if I will not rebuke the devourer, meaning I will not see if I will pour out blessing upon you, pour out blessing that you don't have room enough to contain it. So God's saying, I will pour out all this blessing on you, and I will make sure that nothing eats what's been given to you. Now, can I challenge some of us that most of us, we don't need to blame the devil for our devourer. The biggest devourer in most of our lives is us. I don't know about you, but I can spend some money. Give me $500 and actually, I'm getting better about this, but my wife is awesome. She loves to spend some money. If you give me $500 or you say, hey, Alex, I want to give you $100. What's something you want? We literally went through this on Valentine's Day. Brenda was like, Alex, what do you want? And I said, well, I want a steam sauna for the house. That's what I want. And she's like, okay, well, I'm not buying you that. So she's like, well, what do you want? Like, what's like $50 you want? I was like, I would like $50 contributed to my steam sauna fund. And that's just kind of how my brain works. Is I like to save money for big purchases. My wife, though, if you give Brenda $20, that thing will be gone in about 5 minutes. She'll find a way to spend it. And I'm not saying that as a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a thing. My wife likes to spend some money. Now, I would say that most of us, though, we find ways to spend some money. And your thing might be shopping. Your thing might be buying gifts for other people. Your thing might be whatever. But we can always find something to spend our money on. Now, I would say this. That most Christians want to be generous, but they aren't, because most Christians don't have the margin for generosity. Now, this morning, I'm not coming against you if you're not being generous this morning. I'm saying I think you want to be. I'm saying what I think the problem is we don't have the margin to be generous. Now, statistics here. Anybody like statistics? Like me? Anybody like numbers? I'm a statistics person. Statistics. Here's some fun statistics. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 78%. That's wild. Only 41% of Americans have a budget. 44% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency. 44%. That's wild. That's actually scary. But I have some more fun statistics, some debt statistics. The average non-mortgage debt per person between the ages of 30 and 39 is $26,000. Non-mortgage. Average non-mortgage debt per person between the ages of 40 and 49 is $28,000. And then between the ages of 50 and 59 is $25,000, meaning the average non-mortgage debt per person between the ages of 30 and 59 is $27,000. The average household credit card debt is $19,865. The average household student loan debt is $58,408. The average household car loan debt is $36,832. So I would say this, again, most Christians want to be generous. I think most of us, though, just don't have the ability or the margin to be generous. And the reason, and this actually it influences a lot of our thinking and our perspective. Because when you don't have the money to be generous, or you're barely making it paycheck to paycheck, your prayers look like this. Well, God will bless me, so I don't need to worry about money. Well, God will bless me, so I don't need to worry about money. Or you look at it like, well, God, you know what I need, and so I need you to show up in X, Y, and Z so that we can make X, Y, and Z payments. And so when we have a perspective that is, I don't have enough money, then we use faith as a get out of jail free card. No one wants to shout that one down. Here's what Galatians chapter 6 says. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever you sow, you will also reap. For one who sows of his own flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. But the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. And let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap. And if we don't give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of a household of faith. The Bible is saying this: whatever you sow, whatever you plant, it will always spring up a harvest. We say it like this, that you reap where you sow and what you sow. Meaning this: if I sow apples, I'm not gonna grow oranges, right? And so some of you guys, you're like saying, well, I'm gonna serve at church so that I can reap friends. And can I challenge you for a minute? The way you reap friends is by sowing friendship. You're like saying, well, Alex, I'm coming to church this morning because I'm looking for my boo. You know, I'm looking for that engage. I'm looking for that ring in spring. You know, like I'm looking. You know, and that's cool. You know, I'm just saying, like, the way that you reap an engagement would actually be by sowing things that attract a spouse. And so we reap where we sow and what we sow. So in the same way, if you want financial blessing, you reap where you sow and what you sow. And so if you want financial blessing, it looks like sowing seeds of money. And this is where everybody gets all upset, because you're like, this is prosperity gospel. And here, let me just rag on the prosperity gospel for a minute. The reason why the prosperity gospel gets so bent out of shape and so gross is because we'll say things like this: well, if you sow X amount of dollars, then God will give you healing. But we sow where we sow, we reap what we sow and where we sow. And so the other thing too is this: I don't get to determine the return on investment and the time of the return on investment when I sow seeds. And so, like, if you're looking for this morning, like, okay, Pastor Alex said that if I just give a check of $100 in the offering today, then God will make sure that I have $1,000 in my bank account, you know, by the end of the week. You know, I'm not saying that. I'm saying doing the same thing being obedient in the same direction over time will absolutely reap a harvest. But don't get this twisted, because don't look at this as like this, do this and get that. Because if you look at the Bible that way, it will always leave you disappointed. But my challenge to you, though, is this: are you reaping the harvest of wisdom, or are you reaping the harvest of ignorance? Because a lot of us, again, I think you want to be generous. I know you want to be generous because you want to look like Jesus. But if I was to be honest, most Christians are currently reaping the harvest of ignorance instead of reaping the harvest of wisdom. Can I challenge you this morning? It's not wisdom to spend every last dollar of your money on your bills and just barely making it. That's not wise. That's ignorance. And look, let me just be honest this morning. I know that this sermon, I ain't gonna get a lot of shouts. I know. I know because I know you. I know our church. I know how many people in our church have brand new cars but don't make more than like $40,000 a year. That's ignorance, friend. I know how many of our church members can barely pay their bills. but we don't want to go get a second job. Because you want to say, oh, well, I need to spend more time with the kids. Friend, your kids need food. Priorities. We got to get our priorities in order, and we've got to start reaping the benefits of wisdom instead of reaping the benefits of ignorance. Amen? Are you learning? Am I hurting you yet? I don't mean to. I'm really not trying to. Because here's the reality. I'm not trying to be offensive this morning. I'm really not. I'm trying to help you because I believe you want to be generous. I know you do. But I know that so many of you, you're looking at your bank account and you're saying, Pastor, I came this morning. I've got $100 in my savings account. I've got $50 in my checking account. I've got $200 worth of bills coming at the end of the week. I'm waiting on God to do a miracle. And I'm saying to you today, there's ways for you to be generous. But it's going to take some strategy, okay? And the strategy that I want to tell you about today is called a budget. Wow, yes, God. Yes, God, a budget. Yeah. I'm going to, again, I said this last week. I'm going to say it again this week. The Spirit-filled church is really good at the spiritual. We're really bad at the practical. We're really good about, Pastor, would you lay hands on me? I need a miracle in my money. And we're really bad about about not going to Jack in the Box anymore. We're really good about saying, Pastor, I need a miracle. I want to pay my tithes. I want to be obedient to God. But you're paying like 25% on your credit card bills. And you got that thing maxed out. Friend, there's a real practical side to being obedient. And remember, the word for the year is favor. We said it like this, that radical obedience unlocks supernatural favor. Now this morning, if you're being generous, you're sitting here this morning, you're like, preach it, Pastor. This morning, if you ain't being generous and you're really tight with your cash, you're looking at me, you're going, why on earth did I come to church today? And that's okay, but I want to help you. I want to help you. So I normally just kind of carry a loud, passionate tenor in my voice. And so don't hear my tone and think he's angry. I'm convinced of this. That's my passion, is I'm convinced of this. Brenda and I, if I can just be really, really candid with you guys, when we first got married, we were living on faith. God was our provider, and He was really providing. But if I believe Brenna made around $3,000 a month at Ulta, and I made less than that. I think I was making $300. I think I made $300 a week at my church that I was on staff with, and so I was making around $1,200 a month or a month, and Brenda's making $3,000 a month. And I think 3,000 was even pushing it. I don't even think you made 3,000. I think we made 3,000 as a household a month. And we set our budget, and we were, if you want to learn how to be broke, me and Brenda are experts on being broke. I can stretch your budget for you because we had $100 a week for groceries, $100 a week for groceries, or was that, do what? $60 a week for groceries. Wow, Brenda, what were we doing? We had no money. We literally had no money, and we had to stretch every last dollar to make sure that we could make it. But that also looked like we sold a bunch of stuff when we first got married. We got rid of a bunch of stuff. We didn't buy new things. Anybody love a good Facebook Marketplace find, you know? Man, bless God, bless God. Facebook, we bought this new TV. It was like a 65-inch massive boy. This was back 7 years ago. So, I mean, this was like when 65-inch was like the biggest thing that you've ever seen. And we got that thing. We found it on Facebook Marketplace for $300. And I was like, this is the greatest day of my life, you know? But I remember being so broke, and the only way we survived was by working a budget. The only way we survived. And we were really, really, really adamant about our budget. You want to know what's also crazy? We paid off $5,000 worth of credit card debt that same year. You know what's also crazy? We also paid our tithe every single month. And so when I'm telling you, if I get loud this morning, it's not because I'm angry. It's because I believe in this. I'm convinced of it. I know this works. And so I want to tell you some truth about a budget. Number one, a budget tells your money where to go. A budget tells your money where to go. The Bible says this, without vision, people cast off restraint or people perish. Can I say it like this? Without a vision for your money, you will cast off restraint. Proverbs 21:20 says this, precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man what? Devours it. Can I tell you this morning, you might have more money than you realize, but you're eating it. Proverbs 25:28 says this, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. And so some real practical advice. This morning, I'm just going to teach you. I want to help you. I want to come alongside you as a friend, as a pastor, and really just help you. So some practical advice for working a budget is you might need to use cash for a little bit. Why would I say you might need to use cash? Because cash can help you better grasp where your money is going. And you know what doesn't ever hurt? Apple Pay. I don't even keep track. I'm like, you got Apple Pay? And they're like, yeah. And I literally don't even see the money come. I don't even look at how much money I just spent. I'm just like, beep, beep, boop, bop. Credit cards, same thing. Debit cards, same thing. I don't feel it. Now, if I go to get coffee with Brenna and she buys like my drink, her drink, and then Brenna likes to get the food at Starbucks, I think it tastes like it was like artificially made in space, But we'll go get grocery or go to get Starbucks, and our bill at Starbucks was what, like $20, $22, something like that. $20 on a credit card, no big deal. Boop, beep, boop, bop. Now, if I have to pull out an actual 20, I'm like, why is this $20? Why is this so much money? It feels different. And some of you guys, you might need to go on a little bit of an adventure called using cash only, where you begin to feel the weight of how much cash you're actually spending. Now, when Brent and I use when we use cash, and we use cash all the time because I like to feel and know where my money's going. I also like to break my cash into individual little pockets in this little. Y'all remember the coupon books? Anybody remember coupon books? So we have a coupon book of like all these little accordion binder, and we have cash that goes in each little spot, and each little spot has a certain amount of cash. For me, it's helpful because I can see it, and then I can actually count to see how much money is literally left in each little bit. No, Brenna, we can't go to Starbucks because Starbucks is going to cost $22, and we've got $16 left in our out-to-eat fund. Or when I say, well, yeah, we can go to Starbucks, but it's going to have to come out of your spending money. It feels different. It just feels different. And so for some of you guys, I'm telling you, this right here might be the only thing you hear, and you might be just go and be like, we're using cash now, babe. And like, I'm telling you, if that's all you hear today, I'm telling you, it might just change your whole life. Number 2, a budget doesn't bring wealth today, but wealth over time. What we're talking about today is not going to be like, okay, cool, you work your budget, now you got $9,000 in the bank account or $25,000 in the bank account. God's done so much. Maybe if you're making $25,000 a month, but at the end of the day, if you do your budget for this month, if you got, say you're making $7,000 a month, you're making around $85,000 a year. If that's your thing, like that's awesome. But $7,000, the most you're gonna save this month might be like $2,000, $3,000. And so at the end of the day, you're not gonna get wealthy today. But if you save that money month over month over month, you will get wealthy over time. Proverbs 21:5 says this, the plans of the diligent surely lead to abundance, but everyone who is hasty or acts quickly comes only to poverty. Proverbs 13:11, I love this verse. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. I think it's the Amplified, I think it's the Message that says that wealth gained in get-rich-quick schemes will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. So if you can only save $100 this month, you might be saying, Pastor, I've got $100 that we can save. Bless God, that's awesome, that's huge. Because $100 is $100. If I gave you $100 today, you'd be like, Pastor, this is too much. And I think that's true about anyone. But when you can, but some of you guys, you're like, well, it's only $100, so we can save only $100. And like, you need to look at yourself the same way as like, if I came up to you and gave you a $100 bill, like you're giving yourself that $100 bill, and that $100 is still $100. Now, $100 saved every month over the year will be $1,200. If I gave you $1,200, would that be a pretty big deal? Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty big deal. So again, You got to get out of this, what do I have right now, and into this, I need this over time. Now, a 20-year-old, is anybody 20 in the room or about 20 in the room? Anybody about 20? Hey, we got about 20s? Cool. Now, if our about 20s in the room, if you saved $100 a month, only $100 a month until you're 65, you would have saved $54,000. Now, if you invest that money, same $100 a month at a 12% interest, which is about the S&P 500 average, meaning about the same rate as the general stock market's gonna go up, is about 12% year over year. If you did that, if you invested $100 a month until you're 65, you wouldn't have $54,000. You'd have $2,145,467. $2,145,000. If you just invested $100 a month. We say it like this, that the best time to invest was 20 years ago. The second best time to invest is today. So you might be saying this morning, Pastor, all I got is $100. If you let that thing just grow and just let it do its thing, if you let that $100 a month just do its thing, over 45 years, you will literally be a millionaire doubled. Anybody want to be a millionaire? Who wants to be a millionaire? No, just me? Okay, cool. Now, a budget, number 3, a budget needs to be realistic. A budget needs to be realistic. Can I tell you what I've seen more people do with their budgets than anything else? Is some of you guys, you know what you spend on your bills, but you have no idea what you spend on anything else. And so you'll come to me because I love money. I love spreadsheets. You know, I love money. Take that for the clip for the week. You know, for Instagram. Pastor said I love money. You know, but no, I love finances, and this stuff just gets me excited. I just love the way it works. I love the way spreadsheets and different charts work. So I love partnering with people when they're saying, Pastor, can you help me run a budget? I love doing that. About a year ago, we actually took all of our lead team, and I gave them a sample of my budget. The problem is I like spreadsheets more than just about anyone else, so no one knew how to work the spreadsheet. But I love doing this. And so the problem is that some of you guys, if you were to build your budget today, you would say, well, I just need about $100 a month for going out to eat. I just need about $100 a month. I can live on that. I can only go out. I can spend about $100 a month going out to eat. And the problem is you don't know how much you're actually spending going out to eat. If me and Brenda go out to eat with any one of you guys, we're easily spending $100 going out to eat once. If you go out and get Whataburger, anybody love Whataburger? I love Whataburger. Man, the Spirit of God just hit me as soon as I said it. You know, as soon as Whataburger, I just felt the anointing come on me, and the spicy ketchup just come up in my veins. You know, but that $10 number one, you know, that means you get to go to Whataburger 10 times this month. And some of you guys go to Whataburger 10 times in a week, you know? And so I'm just being honest. Before you build your budget, you need to look at your spending. Proverbs 27 says this, know well the condition of your flocks and give attention to your herds, for riches do not last forever, and does a crown endure to all generations? Meaning this, like I know it's like flocks and herds, you know? It's saying, know well what your wealth is doing. Keep a good track on where your money's going. And so you need to know where your money's going. This year, President Donald Trump has elected Elon Musk to start the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and has been doing budget cuts left and right. And I thought it was funny. The more things they find, the more I laugh and cry. I wanted to share with you some of the fun things that have been cut out of the government spending for since Elon Musk has taken over. We are no longer spending $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. Thank God, you know, we're saving money. We were spending $20 million a year for a Sesame Street show in Iraq. We are spending $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. $6 million to advance LGBT in priority countries around the world. $38.7 million annual budget for DEI work. $2.5 million we're being sent to Vietnam for electric vehicles. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. $38 million of COVID payments went to people who were known to be dead. $38 million. $592,000 were spent on a study to explain why chimpanzees throw their poop. $27 million were spent to teach people in Morocco to design and create pottery. Wonderful. $120 million was spent in disability and retirement to dead federal employees. $146 million was spent so that federal employees could upgrade their flights to business class. $146 million. It's so funny when we read this and we look at our deficit and we're like, what are we spending our money on? And we're like, this is crazy. Can you believe that we were actually spending, like someone actually went through the books and went through the numbers and said, this is what we were actually spending our money on. Print your bank statement and you'll have a very similar conversation. Where is all my money going? Print 3 months of bank statements and I'll tell you exactly where your money's going. The problem is you just don't want to know. Can I be honest? Most of us don't work a budget because you want to live in blissful ignorance. Well, if I don't know, then I can't be held accountable. Friend, that's dumb. That's really dumb. Don't do that. You got to print, so tips for building your budget. You got to print your bank statements and print out 3 months. Categorize it into spending, into different things so you can see where your money's going. Some of you guys, you might just need to have a whole budget item that's called coffee. So you can see exactly how much money you're spending. Then create a budget off of what you're currently spending and make sure that it's realistic, adjusting what you know your money is being spent on currently. If you're spending $1,000 a month on coffee, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but for some of y'all, that's just like week one, you know? And so like if you're spending $1,000 a month on coffee, and then you're like, well, Pastor, I'm just gonna go down to $50 a month. That's not realistic. Unless you're desperate. And some of you guys gotta get desperate. Practical advice. Brent and I go on a spending freeze twice a year to better grasp our budget. We go on a spending freeze twice a year. What does that mean? We don't buy anything. We buy our groceries, and our grocery budget, I think every time we do it, it's like it gets cut a little bit. You know, it's like, because we ain't buying the fun stuff. It's what you absolutely need to survive. We do this twice a year. Why do we do this? Because I want to know exactly where my money's going. I want to know, can we actually make it on spending nothing? That means we don't go out to eat for an entire month. It's so funny, when we first did this, people would ask us to go out to eat, and we're like, yeah, we'll go. You're paying. We're on a spending freeze. We can't spend any money. Oh, okay. I guess we will. I guess we'll pay, you know? We're serious about this. Again, I'm telling you, I know how to be broke. And the reason I'm not broke is because I've worked this thing out. We do it because we want to stretch our frugality and we want to see where our money is going. A review of your money will reveal one of two problems, because there's really only one of two issues in finances. You either have one of two problems today if your money doesn't look the way you want it to look. You have one of two problems. Number one is income. Number two is spending. There is only two problems when it comes to money. You either don't make enough or you spend too much. It's simple. It's math. Some of you guys are just really bad at math. Now, let me help you identify which one you're in. If you can't cut your budget anymore and you're still shot, your problem is income. If you've been like, Pastor, we are down to the wire. We're eating ramen noodles ramen noodles and weenies, you know, every meal, you know. We don't buy any sodas. We only do water at the house. We don't even, we open the windows when it's hot outside, and we don't even turn the AC on, and we build a fire in the middle of the living room to conserve energy for the winter, you know. We've cut everything we can, you know. If that's you this morning and you're still not making ends meet, you need more money. And I don't mean that like offensively. I'm just meaning that like practically. If you have cut everything you know to cut, you got to just be honest with yourself and say, I need to work a second job. Again, I don't expect any shouts on this sermon today. Some of you guys, you came this morning and you're like, Pastor, I am really frugal with my money. I don't have any margin. I want to be generous. I can't. This morning, I'm going to tell you a tough truth. You need a better job. If you're making minimum wage and it's not your first job, friend, you need a better job. I love how people are consistently saying that we need to raise the minimum wage, and I'm for it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's the minimum wages for 16-year-olds. That's why it's there, so we don't underpay 18-year-olds. Not so that 45-year-olds can finally get a raise. Again, I'm not trying to be harsh this morning. I'm trying to be honest. This morning, if you're saying, well, Pastor, I'm not qualified to get another job, instead of getting a second job, you might need to go to school at night. Learn a trade. Figure out a way to make ends meet. You have a responsibility. Like, yes, God will show up and God will be your provider, and God will always go above and beyond, more than we could ever ask, think, or imagine. But friend, there's a reality that you got to be practical. This morning, if you are not, maybe you're saying, well, I don't want to work another job, and I don't want to get a new job, and I don't want to have to go to school, and I don't want to do all these different things. And hear me today. I'm not saying you need to go spend $80,000, $90,000 on a 4-year degree from, some liberal crazy thing and get your liberal arts degree. That's not what I'm saying at all. That honestly would probably not even help you in the long run. What I'm saying this morning is find a trade. Become a plumber. Do HVAC work. Find a way to get into becoming an electrician. Do the stuff that nobody wants to do. It is so quiet this morning. I love it. Now this morning, if you're saying, Alex, I really don't want to do that, that's fine. Don't spend any money, though. Cut your spending more. Because again, I gave this wild example. I'm like, you're building a fire in the middle of your living room. Please don't do that. That'll burn your house down. But like, if you really don't want to get another job and your kids are hungry and things are going kind of wild, can I just be honest to all of our crunchy moms at this church? Stop buying organic. Like, for real, we got to just be honest and be desperate. If you can't make your mortgage payment, you're desperate. And like, I get it. We need to eat healthy and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you got to be realistic. And you got to be honest. Eat ramen exclusively. Don't get your new iPhone. Get a cash car. Find a cheaper apartment. Stop buying clothes. Stop buying coffee. Cut everything out until there's margin. Pastor, I need my coffee. I pray deliverance over you in Jesus' name. I don't know what number we're on, but the next one is a budget needs to be reviewed. Your budget needs to be reviewed. Proverbs 15:22 says this, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Now this morning, I don't need to see everyone's budget. If you would like for me to see your budget and you need help, I'm more than willing to help. I'm just saying this morning, don't hear me say you need someone to look at your budget and think, Pastor wants to know how much money every single person in the church makes, and he just wants to be in our business. Blah, 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 blah. That's not what I'm saying. But a budget should be understood by someone that's not just you. Because, can I be honest? What I think is normal and then isn't necessarily normal to everyone. It's so funny. People come over to our house and they'll be like, well, Pastor, we spend $1,000 a month on groceries. And Brent and I, we just look back at them. We're like, you do what? You spend what? How many kids do you got? 9? And they're like, well, we're just trying to eat healthy, and all this stuff. I'm like, friend, you can't pay your car payment. Your car's gonna get repoed. You really need to stop thinking about organic food right now. You gotta be honest. And so again, what might seem normal in your house might be wildly not normal to someone else. Now, don't just ask your broke friend to review your budget because they're gonna be like, this looks great, man, this is awesome. You know. Man, I wish I made what you make, you know. Ask somebody that you respect their finances. Ask somebody who is maybe further along than you are with finances. And then I would say this. If you're married this morning, a budget should be understood by everyone who spends money in your house. Because some of us, we're like, well, my wife does the books, or my husband does the money, and I don't need to worry about it. If you spend the money, you need to worry about it. My wife, I build our budget for our house, and Brenda will always ask me when she goes to the store, how much money do I have to spend on groceries? Why? She doesn't want to go over. And if I just like, well, you didn't follow the budget. She didn't understand the budget. I gotta make sure that my house is in order. And so you gotta make this a joint effort. If you've got debt in your house and you're like, man, we wanna pay off X amount of dollars on our credit cards this year, can I tell you, you need a joint effort to get that thing paid off. It can't just be the husband who's like just counting the money in the back and just be like, all right, well, hopefully everything works out. No. You got to work this thing together. Why? Because Psalms 133 says this, behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers or families or people dwell in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down the beard of Aaron, running down the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. So if you are not in unity in your household, friend, God is like blessing ain't commanded to come to your house. But when you make up your mind, we're saying, me and my wife, we're gonna be in unity with what we're spending our money on, with where our money's going, with how we're doing our budget, with what we're investing in, different things like that. If you can be in unity, then friend, God literally commands a blessing on your unity. So your household, your finances needs unity around it. Me and Brenna, when we first moved to Texas, I told this story a couple times. It's one of my favorite stories, but so bear with me if you've heard it before. But when we first moved to Texas, we sold one of our cars to a friend that never paid us. That was fun. Still hasn't paid us. Even more fun. And then I've given away a car. Brenna, we've given away a car. Didn't know we did that. That was awesome. We gave it away. We're so generous. But then our other car that we had, when we drove down, blew up. The engine got locked and it literally blew up. We sent it to the shop. The shop was like, it's going to cost more. It costs more than the car is worth. So we're just like, we'll just total the car. And so we lost both of our cars literally within 2 weeks. It was really fun. Real fun season. Now, when we got to Texas, my in-laws are probably the most generous people I've ever met in my entire life. Matt and Marianne Mayo, they're some of the most generous, if not the most generous people I know. And they were like, well, we have an extra car, we'll let you drive it. They let us drive that bad boy for a year and a half. And we were just trying to get kind of our life back in order after we moved. When we moved, we were just kind of moved in a whole frenzy. And we were planning on moving in the summer. Our pastor was like, well, you need to move in March. And so that was in February that he told me that. And so really, really exciting season. And so I remember earlier this past year, our money had finally gotten back in order. We had a bunch of money in savings. We were like, I think it's time for us to go in and finally get a car for ourselves. And it's so funny. We had the money, we had the extra income, we could afford the car payment, all that kind of stuff. And so I set out and I said, hey, we're going to buy this new car. And we applied for a car loan, and they got back to us with a really fun interest rate of 13.64% interest. Now, for some of you guys, that's like a great interest rate because your credit's terrible, but for me, it was really, really, really shocking. And 13.64% interest. I thought to myself, that's just the dealership. We need to go to a bank and we'll get a lower rate. Let's go, The bank got back to us and they said, well, we can't cover the entire loan and and the interest rate is 18%. I was shook. I was shooketh. It doubled the car payment, almost. It was crazy. I was planning on paying around $500 for this car payment. The car payment went up to $900. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend $900 on a car a month. And so I literally talked to Brenna, and she's like, what did you pray about it? And I was like, what do you mean did I pray about it? Brenna, we can afford it. I don't need to pray about this. So spiritual, you know? And Brenna said, well, you probably need to pray about it. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go pray about it. And so I brought it into my daily encounter. I said, Lord, can I buy this car? And that's so funny because the Lord responded to me with this. He said, Alex, I want 15% of your income to go to tithe and generosity. I want 15% of your money to go to savings. And if you can afford it on the remaining, go for it. What did the Lord say? He said, here's your budget. Afford it. For me, that was challenging because for me, I like a good yes and no, you know? I'm real easy. I'm like, God, can I do this? Yes. Cool, I'll do it, you know? And so for me, it was like this new level of permission and where God was saying, hey, budget your cash correctly, and I'm going to give you some guidelines. I'm not saying this is your guidelines, this is our guidelines. And God said, I want you to, 30% of your income needs to go to different places. 70%, if you can pay all of your bills, all your stuff on the 70%, go for it if you can still afford the car. Now, I remember after that encounter, I went to British. I was like, I feel like we can do it. God told me this, and so we're gonna go for it. So funny, we reapplied for the car loan. An 18% interest rate turned to 1.9. Insanity. Like this morning, can I just challenge you? The Lord is interested in your cash. He's interested in your bank account. He's interested in your budget. But the reason why I love budgeting so much, the reason why I fight for our budget is because budgeting allows me to be generous. Like this morning, you may have been budgeting and you might be saying, Pastor, I've already cut so much and I don't want to cut anything else. And again, I'm not even saying about offering. I'm just saying about being generous in general. If you want to be generous to Thread, by all means, be generous to Thread. This morning, do not hear this sermon and think, Pastor Alex just wants me to up my giving. Friend, we making it, we good. If you want to be generous though, go for it. But I'm not going to stop you. But at the same time, that's not the heart of this sermon. The heart of this sermon is to say, I want you to have margin to be able to be radically obedient to what God is asking you to do in the area of finances. See, the beauty of budget is that it gives me a margin to be generous. Now, Heart for Thread month is coming up this month. And some of you guys, again, you're like saying, Pastor, I've prayed. I feel like God has told me to give X amount of dollars, and I don't think we can afford it. Now, number one, the Lord will provide. Like, honestly, the Lord will provide. And he provides in all sorts of wild ways. Number two, if the Lord's asked you to be obedient, friend, you got to be obedient. That might mean your family might need to go on a spending freeze for the remainder of this month so that you can be obedient to what God's asked you to give. That might mean that no matter how hard it might look for this next several weeks before we get into our Heart for Thread offering, that you got to be radically obedient to give what God has asked you to give. This morning, I want to remind you, we have never once told you that, well, any gift, you got to give more than this amount of money, or everyone should give X amount of dollars. Friend, you need to give in response to what God has been generous to you. This morning, if you're a single mom, you're just raising your kids, you're just trying to make it, you're making just, you're scraping pennies together. Friend, your generosity needs to reflect your life. In the same way, if you're a business owner, God has been generous to you this year, he has been going above and beyond, then friend, your generosity needs to be in accordance to what God has done in your life. But I felt encouraged to challenge some of you to plan for a large seed for a Heart for Thread. Again, this year, we felt the Lord say that it's time to dream bigger this year. Now, Heart for Thread this year is the same as last year. Might look like a lump sum, or it might look like a commitment to pay out for this year. But whatever God's asked you to do, you need to be obedient and you be generous. Not because Thread needs your money. Again, Heart for Thread, it ain't touching us this year. We just get to be super generous and just give it all away this year. And so hear me this morning. I'm saying when we get the announcement for Heart for Thread, and I said, man, we're going to give all this money away this year. Some of you, your heart literally leapt within you and you said, finally. So you got so excited. But then that excitement was met with the reality of, but we don't have any money to give. This morning I want to challenge you. How desperate are you to be radically obedient to what God has asked you to give? It's funny, I do like graphic design stuff on the side, and my wife does like and social media influencing and stuff on the side. And it's so funny. We have a big bill coming up because we're pregnant, so we have our midwife bill coming up. It's about $6,000 to give birth at a midwife center or do a home birth with this midwife center. And so we're like looking at our budget, and we're like, all right, we got to pay a $6,000 bill come May. Real fun. And so we're in the similar boat as I feel like most of our churches with Heart for Thread for this year. We're looking at the ask, and we're saying, God, I want to be obedient, I want to be generous, but we're also looking down the road, and we're saying, but we got this coming up, we got this bill coming up, we got this thing coming up, we got this thing coming up. And friend, can I challenge you? Whatever God's asked you to do, be obedient. For some of you, that might be like a down payment on your car, like when you're coming up for Heart for Thread. This is the down payment on my Heart for Thread offering. I'm giving, $100 for my down payment. I'm committing to give, $500 by the end of the year, or whatever that might be for you. For this morning, I want to challenge you. You got to get your household in order. You got to get your stuff in order so you can be generous like God's asked you to be generous. Friend, our word for the year is favor. We say it like this, that radical obedience unlocks supernatural favor. And my challenge to our church this morning is I want you to have the margin to be radically obedient. When God speaks, it's not oh no, what is going to happen? But it's an immediate, yes, Lord, you got it. I've got margin for that. I've created space for that. I was at my house, and I was coaching a local youth pastor and just helping him with just different things with his ministry. And at the end of this, like me and Brenna paid for his lunch, and we're just blessing him. And then when he was talking to me, I just literally felt the Lord say, you need to give him $500. I was like, $500, God, this is a lot of money. So funny though, because we created margin. It wasn't this huge argument with me and Brenna. It was me texting Brenna, just say, can I give $500 to this dude? She said, yeah. Apple Pay, boom, right into his bank account. And I was like, it's so funny because he responded, he's like, what the heck, man? What are you doing, Nick? I can't accept this. And I'm like, it's already done. I'm not saying that to brag on the fact that I gave money away. I'm saying that to say, when you create margin, you can just be radically obedient really quick. It's just, yeah, I got money for that. Yeah, I got money for that. Yeah, I got money for that. And then when you create margin to be generous, it's funny. When you budget for generosity, your eyes are open and you're looking for people to give money to. Brendan and I, we literally have money set aside every month that's literally just says generosity. And it doesn't go to Thread. It goes to all sorts of different places. And we literally are like looking like, who needs money? Who can we help? Whose groceries can we buy? Whose bill can we pay? How can we help? Because when you create margin, it literally opens your eyes to the world around you. And you stop looking at you. And you begin to look at other people and say, God, how can I partner with your heart for what you're doing on the earth? The prophetic word for this year was this. I heard the Lord say, dream bigger. Last year's dream was thought up in last year's context, but I heard the Lord say, a new year requires a new dream. Some of you, your new dream is that you're going to have financial breakthrough this year. I was in prayer and I saw a bucket of blessing being poured out, and I heard the word alignment. The word is teaching our church how to stand under the blessing that he's pouring out. I want to remind you of the word of the year. I said, be ready to make adjustments in family structure, boundaries, activities, and routines. The Lord is teaching you to move under the blessing that he is pouring out. This blessing will overwhelm you when you get under it. And remember, this was one of the words for this year. I even felt from the Lord that those who get under the Lord's blessing, it will be impossible. It will be impossible to be in need this year. Heard the term quick harvest. And I saw small adjustments making big impact quickly. When the Lord asks for a seemingly small thing, you'll remember this word, because it will be a seed that will produce a quick harvest. Third, I want to challenge you. This is the year that you're going to get your finances in order. This is the year you're going to be more radically generous than you've been in any previous year. This year is going to be the best financial year for you and your house. I'm telling you, you're going to step into favor in your finances this year. I'm telling you, I just rebuke the lie of lack over your family, over your life. I'm telling you, God is about to open the windows of heaven. When you get into alignment with him and in alignment with his word and in alignment with his heart, I'm telling you, watch as the windows of heaven begin to be opened up over you and you won't have room enough to contain it. Why does God want you to not have room enough to contain it? So the overflow has to be given away.